Hello, this is a greeting, and now I'm going to ask some serious questions, and they don't have answers because there's nobody here that can actually answer them. In order to define what the question is seeking. And the question seeks answers. And there is no answer. There's just the present thought, the present feeling, and the present sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, sensation. What is being seen looks like an image that is other, but there is no other. You and I are not separate in our essence, and there is only essence here. There is no real image that has a reality of its own. That is the illusion. So when we look at an image, there's a thought, automatically a thought that's assuming that that has a reality of its own. And that is not true. There is no other reality but the reality that is the all-encompassing wholeness, beingness, that is changeless and doesn't appear and disappear. It's changeless. This is becoming so clear. And it's because there has been a detachment between the changeless and the ever-changing. There's been a separation between the two so that there's a seeing. Oh yeah, I can see that. There's nobody seeing it, but there's still the language. I can see illusions. And illusions are not real. They're ideas of what is real. And so there's just the real or ideas about the real. And the ideas about the real are actually just projections, appearances, conditions, architecture, which is this world. Everything in this world is a closed loop. So if you're trying to find the truth in the world, you're going to go to an appearance to find the truth. And truth isn't found in appearances. So if you want to know the history of the world, you're going to go to a book, you're going to go to some sort of appearance, a person, place, or thing, to find the answer. And what it's going to do is going to send you on a loop. In a loop, around and around and around, because there is no answer in appearances, in people, places, or things. Thoughts. So if there's a question like, how did we get here? That's a deep question. We can sit with that question. Instead of going into a story about the past, before we were born, or what happens to us after we die, this is all just illusions, trying to find an answer. So we think the answer is in time, in a past or the future, but time is itself a construct. It's an illusion. It's not a real thing. It lives within the architecture of this made-up world. So you can't find what you're looking for in a made-up world in order to escape the made-up world. It's just going to send you on another goose chase. So is there escape? There really isn't an escape, because there never was a time when anything got caught or imprisoned or lost. There isn't really a finding, because there was never a losing. There was never a gaining. There's not a gain, there's not a loss. There's not a forgetting even. Because how can you prove that you forgot something? Because you've already remembered that you forgot something. So how do you know that you forgot something after you've remembered? There's just the remembering. And then even remembering is a memory. And how can you find a memory? And how do you prove that there's a memory even exists? You can't go to a book to find a memory. You can't go into your memory to find a memory. Because it doesn't exist. It only exists in memory. So it's, again, a closed loop. It's looping. And so we can think about time as a self-looping mechanism, a time loop, a death loop, birth and death, life and death, looping, looping, looping. A thought that thinks of a thought that thinks of another thought, and it's a repetitive looping. So patterns are looping. We can look at it through time. It loops. There's days, months, years, eons, and then they loop. They go back to the age of the darkness, and then it loops and it goes into the age of lightness, age of the golden age, the Aquarian age, and then it goes back into dark age again. And that is always going to occur within time. There's always going to be change, always going to be patterns, always going to be repetitive sequences. And that's just the way this architecture is built. This creation is built on repetition, patterns, time loops, repetitions. Thoughts are always repeating, and they appear, so now let's go deeper. How can you prove that anything repeats? Right? Because there's this idea, this conclusion that the mind has come up with, that everything is a repetition, that this whole world is based on a repetitive mechanism, a repetitive program. But let's look into that. Is it true? And how can you prove that repetition is real? Prove it. And the only place you can go to find the answer is memory or a book. But that doesn't prove repetition is real, because it is part of the repetitive mechanism itself. It's like going to a liar and asking the liar to tell you the truth. There is no such thing. You can't find the truth in a liar, just like you can't find the ever-present moment in an ever-changing, looping, repetitive architecture, creation. So where do you find the truth then? It's before language. It's in between thoughts. When there's nothing to think about, there's nothing. There's just silence. There's just beingness. And in that beingness, all time disappears, which proves that time doesn't exist, because that which disappears is false. It's not real. Anything that's ever changing is unreal, and everything that is changeless is real. So if we understand that premise, then we can look at everything that changes and we can just kind of just brush it off. Like we can just let it go. Stop trying to analyze the ever-changing. Stop trying to categorize and label and name and describe that which is ever-changing, because that is a trap. It's an entrapment. It's a spell. And it's like you open a door and you go into this world thinking you're going to find an answer, but the only way out is through the way you came in. There is no answer inside the trap. The only answer is when you go back the way you came and return back to yourself. And that self is not, it's not an appearance, and it's not a condition, and it's not a perception. So we can just enjoy all of the perceptions and enjoy thoughts and enjoy feelings. We can hate feelings, we can hate thoughts, but whether the hating is happening or the loving is happening, it doesn't matter. It doesn't define who we really are. We're not trying to pigeonhole who we are, and we're not trying to change who we are, because we don't need to change who we are, because we're changeless. And our ever-changing personality, our ever-changing beliefs, our ever-changing appearances, they aren't real. So there's no use. There's no real use to pay attention to that which is looping. Anything that loops, goes around and around in circles, it's the outside of the circle. It's all distraction. It's all a looking away from the center of the circle that is stationary, changeless, infinite, undefined, and never confined. It's free to be in the circle. It's free to explore infinitely, create infinitely, but the creations are not the truth. They're always going to be a reflection of the truth. Reflections are not reality. They're just a pointer back to that which creates. And that's what we are. We're creator beings. And whether we're creating nothing, or we are creating everything, or whether we are creating polarity, or whether we are creating unity, all the creations don't have any meaning without the knowledge of the Creator, of who we really are. That's it. It's like full stop. It is full stop. And all these thoughts don't mean anything. They don't define who we are. Your thoughts, my thoughts, their thoughts, they're just reflections of light. They're neither good, bad, right, or wrong. They're neither worthy or unworthy. They're neither meaningful or unmeaningful. They're neither valuable or unvaluable. We assign the meaning. And who's assigning meaning but the mind, who's within that is within the time loop, trying to make meaning of everything. But we don't need to do that anymore. We don't need to make meaning where there is no meaning, because all that is meaningful is the changeless. And the changeless doesn't have an appearance. But it can appear as anything. It disguises itself as everything. But its essence is undefined. It's not an object. It's not a person, place, or thing. It's nothing. It's absolute nothingness appearing as things and some things and everythings and creations and time loops and death loops and fear and suffering and happiness and bliss and dread, all of it. All of it. And these are only words. So when you're actually having an experience of dread, that's no different than having a direct experience of bliss. It's just one has been projected out, which feels separate and foreign, like a stranger. But when you bring it close, you realize it's no different than bliss. That's the alchemy. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to alchemize everything that has been projected out there, and we're bringing it back to our being. We're bringing it really close, intimately. So the intimacy, the willingness to be intimate with everything. Let's look up really close to what it is. Let's peer into it. Let's feel into it. And let's remember that it's just a reflection of who we are, or who we are not. But either or, no reflection is who we are. So we can accept both good and bad, right and wrong. It doesn't matter. They're both the same. They're both unreal. Like my friend and I were talking today about how we love to praise loving people. But we also, on the other hand, will complain or disgrace or discredit those who are not loving. And so what's the difference between a loving person or an unloving person when on the projection screen? Like, we have to see that the reflections are not the reality. So we don't need to keep dividing the projections into categories, polarities, because that very activity of the mind that wants to put everything onto the right and onto the left is actually perpetuating the belief in separation and the feelings of separation. And that creates our own suffering, depression, anxiety, and belief in time. Past, present, future. It's all just categorized thoughts. Oh, that thought belongs to the past. That thought belongs to the future. That thought belongs to right now. No. All thoughts are false. They're just reflections of light. Equal. They're all coming from an equal playing field, and they all return to an equal playing field. So let them come and let them go. And we be the neutral, non-judging, non-defining witness, observer, noticing, recognizing that it's all the same. Everything in the reflection is just one reflection of the one being that is the reality of all things. The self witnessing the self. The being recognizing the being. There's just one reality here, looking at itself, recognizing itself, noticing itself. And that's all there is. There's not a multitude of things, complex stories about the past, patriarchal societies overtaking the matriarchal societies, and it just goes on, and the wars and the conflicts and the jealousies and the rage and the envy and the competition and the ambition and the comparisons. I mean, just look at all of the dramas and the mysteries and the comedies and the romantic comedies. It's all just movies. But the screen upon which all movies are seen is just one neutral screen. It has no opinions. It doesn't like or dislike anything. It doesn't hate or love anything. It only knows itself, its own being. And the test of reality is threefold. The first test of reality is it never changes. It never changes. Okay? The second test is that it never appears and then disappears. And the third test of reality is that it only can know itself. So that's it. It's simple. If you see something that it's one appearance and then in the next minute it's another appearance, it means that's not reality. If you see a person who's loving and then they're not loving, let them. They don't have to be this. They don't have to stay the same because they're an appearance. And appearances are always going to change. So we can count on that. We don't have to hold people to certain behaviors, certain beliefs. They're not under any rules or laws because they're not real. Reality is only who we are reflected upon itself. And then the appearing and the disappearing, societies come and they go. So we can't use those appearances to define reality. Anything that comes and goes, we can't use to define what we are. Otherwise, we're going to mistake who we are based on what we see coming and going. So if we see bodies coming and going, we're going to go, oh, that must be who I am. I come and go. I appear and disappear. Yes, bodies come and bodies go. Bodies appear and disappear. They're born. They appear as little children. They appear as babies. They come out of the womb. But that's just an appearance. It's appearing, and then all of a sudden there's a disappearance. But really, you can still have memories which appear of a person who died in the past. You say, oh yeah, they appeared, now they're gone. But are they really gone? Because they still live in the memory. Their appearance comes up in an image in your mind. So that's still, the appearance is still coming. Even though the physical bodies are gone, the appearance of them is still coming and going. So we can't define things that are gone if they keep coming back. They're just coming back and leaving and coming back and leaving. They're not real. They never were real, even when they were appearing, and they're not real when they go. So they're not stable, they're not constant, and they're not reliable to define what reality is. So don't rely or depend on any appearance to help you define what reality is, because they are part of the illusion. Illusions can't define reality. Only reality can define reality. Only consciousness can define consciousness, because it's only consciousness that can see itself. Illusions can't see themselves. Illusions can't see the truth. Only truth can look upon illusion, but illusions can't look upon truth. They don't have that power, because it's a one-way street, you know. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, and so we just return back to silence. And all this talking, wow, like the mind is really active. And that's what's happening. But really, what's happening? Nothing. Nothing at all. And that's how much fun it is to create. Because creation is just play. And this is all play. And then it's gone. And then something else will take its place. There's always going to be something coming and something going, something appearing, something disappearing. But the one who's noticing never comes and goes and never disappears and never changes. Beautiful.